Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gut Wrench Podcast. I'm sorry. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fireworks Go Off, Pyro in the background, something catches on fire, American flags burning everywhere. Okay, that sounded very anti-communist. Or that sounded very communist, rather, not anti-communist. That sounded really un-American, anti-American. I didn't mean it like that, fireworks, making the flags burning in the background. What? Who said that? Okay, so in today's episode, we're not going to be discussing some 30-year-old pay-per-view Hulk Hogan wrestled in. We're not going to be talking about professional wrestling. As a matter of fact, today's episode is rather, well, I could tie wrestling into it in one way or another, because, that's primarily what my channel is. If you look at the episode, not the episode description, holy crap, I rehearsed this, but still I'm making mistakes. Okay, so if you look at the podcast description on the website that I upload on, called buzzsprout.com, if you look at the podcast description itself for a Gut Wrench podcast, it literally says that it is a combination of both spiritual wellness and wrestling to achieve goals and succeed in life. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Today will be episode number 101 of the spiritual side of professional wrestling. Or maybe not of professional wrestling, rather, but mental health is important, and I do have a few things to talk about other than mental health, the wrestling wise. So Steve Austin talked about, in a quote, he said that he's getting conditioned to get back into the ring, and they're making this wishy-washy. Before we can get into the whole, spiritual wellness and what have you, and let me tell you how to, I guess, help yourself if you're feeling a certain way. And I'm going to give you an example using two stories. But Steve Austin, back to what I was saying. Because Vince McMahon cries in a corner, and he's so upset with the fact that he can't pull the ratings that he used to be able to pull, because he doesn't trust anybody else except for those 90s stars that brought people like myself and probably people like yourself into professional wrestling in the first place. There's a few problems with that. Eventually, these 90s stars are going to grow old. You can't always depend on them. You can't always have them in your back pocket. Steve Austin has already had 3 neck surgeries or 2 neck surgeries. Steve Austin has already had a few leg surgeries on top of that. His spine is what's really getting to him. The man might be in his 50s, he might be in his 60s, I don't know. I never looked up his age before this, maybe I should have, but it seems to me like he would be, I just don't know how to pinpoint it. He looks like he could probably still go like he's in his 20s. He looks like it. But I don't know. I can't step into the man's body and then say, hey, I feel my arthritis acting up again. Steve, you need to do something about that arthritis. I can't do that. All that I know is that he runs two CMT shows. He runs a podcast. He's a very, very busy man. But CMT probably pulls ratings off of Redneck Island and that other show that he does. I don't know the name of it. It's like the Redneck Challenge or something like that. And he's got movies coming out all the time. He wrote a book. As a matter of fact, that's what... Okay, so today's going to seem like a marketing ploy. Honestly, it is. Because I'm writing a book. So there you go. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an insight on what that book is. And it's not exactly about spirituality, even though it might contain some spiritual messages or concepts in it that I learned from a certain someone who moved away to, I want to say Richmond, or moved away to Norfolk, rather, probably. So it's kind of difficult to really to put that into perspective, but it's your spiritual wellness and your emotional wellness, as well as your mental health wellness, your physical energy, as well as, like, it's all tied in together. And today we're going to hopefully talk about that, if I can get off of Steve Austin and Kevin Owens. Austin is talking about, it seemed in the interview that he was more driven toward talking or suggesting, or for that matter hinting at the fact that he was going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. And it's not that I have a problem with that. Understand that in my small world, my opinion is objectively, in one sense or another, could be considered wrong. And I'm putting wrong in a quotation mark, because this ties into my book as well, and I promise you that this is not a marketing ploy, but I'm going to talk about this in my book as well. Whenever I had graduated from high school, and the year before I graduated from high school, whenever I was a senior in high school on spring break, I was told by God and everybody that I was wrong, and I'm putting wrong in quotation marks again, about Kevin Owens. And it started on this app. And this app, I'm going to tell you the name of, has a toxic community in it known as iFunny Wrestling. And iFunny Wrestling seemed to think that it was funny, or for that matter, that it was cool, that it was edgy, if you will, to make fun of me and call me names like autistic, or say stuff like, oh, did somebody not get their autograph signed at the airport, or, oh, you must be mad because he's a heel and he's so good at his job that he just makes you mad. Or, they would come up with petty, nonsensical reasonings, and I would give them facts. I would give them reasons as to why I don't like Kevin Owens, and as to why someone else, such as yourself, if I had your support, if I had a petition to sign to get Kevin Owens out of professional wrestling, don't think for 1 minute that I wouldn't do it if I had a gun in my hand. And I'm saying this on basically media, that way that if he does get murdered, I want them to look for me. Okay? I want that to be heard. Because I have motive. He has ruined professional wrestling. Okay? I hate to come out here and say this and make myself look like the bad guy, but at the same time, I don't care to look like the bad guy whenever it comes to someone who's already bad. And whenever I say bad, I mean terrible. I mean useless. Whenever I'm using these, because whenever I say bad, I don't mean, oh my god, he's so badass. I wish that I could be like Kevin Owens. That's the one thing in this world that I don't want. I don't want to be like Kevin Owens. And I hope to God that nobody ever uses that voice clip to manipulate me, or manipulate a clip where I'm saying, quote, I wish I was like insert name here, because I'm not going to say it again. Because I never wanted to be heard on media. Take this one for example. On my YouTube channel, some dumbass decided it was a good idea whenever I was talking about Daniel Bryan and his stupid yes chants. Well, I got carried away one time, and on my YouTube channel, the name of the video should be The Daniel Bryan Effect Part 2. It's where I'm wearing an Applebee's shirt because I'd worked there at the time. And shout out to Applebee's, by the way, but they're not sponsored, so no shout out to Applebee's. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Whenever I was waving my hands up and down like a moron, and then I said, yes, 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 yes. Is that how... And then I was basically mocking Brian, saying, is that how I'm going to get your attention? Is that what you like to see? Yes, yes, yes. And then I said it a few more times. Yes, yes, yes. And then I said, look at me, I'm a fucking retard. And somebody took that clip and they shortened it down, and they basically kind of... It was just a GIF, or a, if not a GIF with sound, because it was like a 6-second video of me just saying, yes, 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 look at me, I'm a fucking retard. And then after that, it would play again and again and again. And, this can be somewhat harmful media, especially seeing as though that I wanted to talk about emotional health and how to make it better. And I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot here by letting you, the viewer, you, the listener, know that I have a grudge against someone who I've, 1, never met, 2, I know almost nothing except for his professional career, about. I don't know whether he feeds the homeless. I don't know whether he tips his waiter $5 more. I don't know how good, and I'm going to, once again, Kevin Owens and good don't go in the same sentence, so whenever I use these verbs, good, bad, whenever I use these little words like that, I'm always, and I mean this, always putting them in like the quotations, I'm always saying that it's somewhat gray area here, But nonetheless, like I said, it's really going to tie into my book. This episode is, I'm going to try to make sure that everyone understands why it's important to take care of your mental health, to take care of your emotional health, to take care of your physical well-being as well. But, it falls in line after you understand what it is that I've learned. And if I can teach you what I've learned in 1, maybe 2 episodes, because I won't be doing a second episode of this until like 12 or 15 episodes down the road. But because I want to mainly focus on professional wrestling. It bothers me that Steve Austin will be stepping into the ring because the way that he's talking about it, that he might be stepping into the ring for a match. I was hoping that it would just be an interview because Kevin Owens was like, "Oh, I don't have a match." But Steve Austin is hyping it up like it is a match because Kevin Owens lost his last opportunity to have a match. I don't know how, like Money in the Bank is supposed to be like right around the corner. It makes no sense now that they would say, "Hey, Owens, we're not going to let you be a jobber for Money in the Bank because we know that you've never won a Money in the Bank. And God forbid you actually climb up a fucking ladder and grab the Money in the Bank briefcase. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to bring somebody over from NXT like Tommaso Ciampa, or we're going to change Pete Dunne's name to Butch, and we're going to go ahead and let him beat you." Because, you've been here for way too long. What have you won? The United States title? Didn't you win the NXT championship? Yeah, that kind of fizzled out, didn't it? Yeah, you're mediocre, but we keep you around. That way that you make all of our other stars look good by comparison, like Drew McIntyre. He looks like a monster compared to you. Well, at this point we're just picking you up off the ground like your fucking gum from someone's shoe. It's my shoe, by the way. He's the gum under my shoe. But nonetheless, like I said, it's going to sound like I'm shooting myself in the foot because I hold some resentment toward a certain someone. Well, a certain someone's. There's two people, basically. 1/3 of my mission since coming to YouTube, since coming to all the socials that I have, 1/3 of my mission has been completed, believe it or not. 1/3 in a percentage, 33.5%. What hasn't been accomplished? 66%. Keep that in mind. Nonetheless, what I'd like to do now is switch gears. Stop talking about this whole Kevin Owens endeavor, because I'm sure that I could go on all day about Kevin Owens and how wonderful of a person that he is. Just I know that I stopped myself earlier from saying this. I don't know why, but if I had a gun, if I had the means to hold a weapon of any kind, and I had air and opportunity beside me from Kevin Owens, this is a terroristic threat. This is a terroristic promise. And for that matter, this is a terroristic notice that Kevin Owens would breathe his last breath and his blood would stain my hands. I don't care if the FCC is listening. I don't care if the FBI is listening. I don't give two shits who in the hell they think that they are to try to stop me from obtaining this mission. If I had the funds, the means to get there, like say, I was to read a poster. Kevin Owens going to be at a book signing somewhere. If he was going to be at a book signing somewhere, that'd be his last book signing. Nonetheless, we're just going to move on right now. Now, spiritual energy comes from both good and bad places, as you all know. A little bit awkward here, but we're just going to move on right past it, okay? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow if I upload this and get questioned by the FBI. I'm not sure why, but just roll with it. Roll with it, you know. I'm not going to edit this part out or anything, even though I don't have any editing software. It's alright. It's alright. It's okay. Everything is fine. What I mean to say is that spiritual energy can come from good and bad places. Take for example, and I'm going to change her name, and this might not be her name in the book that I'm writing right now, but I'm going to tell you a story about a girl who I met online. And we were somewhat friends because we bonded over one thing: professional wrestling. Professional wrestling. It was everything to us. And for that matter, at one point in my life, this is going to sound hard to believe, especially for some family members who may or may not be listening to this. At one point in my life, though, I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning because I didn't have motivation. I didn't have a drive. I didn't have anything to live up to. And for that matter, I didn't have a role model. That's what some people lack in this life. Much like the Kevin Owens situation, I use all of his impotence, if you will, all of his shortcomings that I can point out, and I look at him and then I say, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to make sure that I'm everything except that. Pointing to a picture of Kevin Owens, of course. And spiritual energy comes from both good and bad places. So what you could do is you could take this spiritual energy and you can feel it. You can honestly feel your own spiritual energy. If you've ever stopped, closed your eyes for more than like 30 seconds, for more than like a minute and a half, for more than like 10 minutes without going to sleep, close your eyes. Don't go to sleep. Listen to the rhythm of your heartbeat. Listen to the rhythm of your breathing. Whenever you do this, make sure that you're in a quiet environment, a quiet place, so that you can listen to the rhythm of your being. Every heartbeat, every window of opportunity that you have to take a breath and then exhale. This has to be in a consistent manner within 15 to 30 seconds of a time window. And this would be something that you would do on a regular basis. And the more that you do it, let's say that you did it 2 times a week. The more that you do it, you're going to find that you're going to have an improved quality of life. You're no longer going to be doing those fake smiles that you do whenever you pass people and then they ask you, how are you? And then you say, oh, I'm great. Don't lie to yourself and let yourself know that if you have a problem, be honest about it. Be open about it. Be sure that whenever you have these problems, these issues, that you take them head on and you don't try to sweep them under the rug. You don't try to hide them or tell yourself that it's going to be okay. Tell yourself that, oh, it'll get better tomorrow. This is stuff that just doesn't get better tomorrow within the snap of a finger. This is something that you can improve yourself. And it's as easy as being alone by yourself, closing your eyes, if you need to set Indian style. I'm going to recommend a YouTube channel. If you don't want to look at it, then that's fine. That's great. Wonderful. Once again, spiritual energy comes from both good and bad places. If it's coming from a bad place in your life, you can do a lot to change it. You can do a lot to stop it. And you're more in control than you think. You might not be able to change everything. I'm not going to make the promise that you can change everything. Had that been the case, I'd been meditating for quite some time. Kevin Owens wouldn't exist. Out of the 10,000 sperm that his mom and dad chose to make, they made a mistake. And I'm here to correct that mistake, okay? If I was a mistake, then that's even more of an opportunity for this mistake to correct that mistake and make sure that the biggest mistake in professional wrestling doesn't exist. If that makes sense. Because it should. Because I'm the one that said it. But nonetheless, what I mean to say, and I'm trying to tie it into this book, and I'm trying to tell you this girl's story. I promise you that I am. I'm trying to tell you how I helped her. We met on this app called iFunny. As I aforementioned, iFunny is full of bullies, immature dumbasses, and people who seem to think that it's funny to pick on someone because they might think a different way. And here's the irony, here's the icing on the cake for that. Like I said, me and her shared a few common things. One of those being Kevin Owens. We both didn't like him. I feel as though that I didn't like him, or I hated him more than, life itself. If I could hate life any more than what I did whenever I was 11, 12, 13 years old and had no role models, as I previously mentioned. Nonetheless, what I mean to say is that she had traumas in her life, and she was greatly affected by them. So whenever it came down to it, and there were a few people who were her friend, and I chose to stick around, and me and her got to know each other a little bit. And she and I resonated with each other on one other subject that we touched on. The fact that she was a victim of sexual assault. And she didn't know how to move past it. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know who she was. Because every day she couldn't look herself in the mirror and think that she was a bright, happy, young girl. For whatever reason, she seen a victim, and she just couldn't see herself as confident. She just couldn't look herself in the mirror and smile. There was nothing but pain for her, because from the time that she was 5 years old until she was 16 and a half, almost 17 years old, she was sexually assaulted by someone who claimed to, quote, love her. And that's something that is awful, that is tremendously hard to hear. When she shared her story, I thought that I would give her a name, but it's not important. Or tell you a different location than where she told me. that she was from, when she shared her story with me, I felt inclined to open up to her as well, because that's how conversation and communication, for that matter, works with a partner. So I told her what I'm going to tell all of you in the book that I'm writing, what happened to me whenever I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. I remember that I was living in an apartment with my mom, and I was missing a lot of school. Matter of fact, I missed 88 days of school, and a school year, I don't know about back then, but I do know that right now is 180 days. If they haven't changed that, 88 days out of 180, I practically missed over half of the entire school year. 180, so let's think, 90 plus 90, I missed 88, so yeah, I almost missed half of the actual school year, so much so that I was held back in kindergarten, and I didn't graduate until I was 19 years old. But nonetheless, what I mean to say is I shared with her something, and I feel as though that it brought us closer, even though I, myself, can never... I feel like her traumas were much bigger than mine. I feel like her traumas were that of exponentially bigger than my traumas that I could ever hope to capture and bottle into a jar. Those emotions that she felt haunted her every day. It changed who she trusted. It changed a lot, of things. I feel as though that she had trouble trusting me as well. And there was another problem too, is the fact that I feel as though that I triggered her once or twice. For instance, one time she told me that she was cleaning her room, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I decided it was a good idea to, while she was cleaning her room, to send her a meme. And I sent her one, and I probably sent her two, but the first one was like a Joe Dirt looking guy, and he had like a piece of hay in his mouth, and I guess it's supposed to make fun of people from Alabama or some other country, like Oklahoma. But he had like a piece of hay straw in his mouth, and then it said something along the lines of, my sister told me that I fuck just like dad, and I told her, that's funny. Mom said the same thing. So it's kind of like it's supposed to be funny because his sister told her, or his sister told him while they were having sex, that he fucks just like her father, and then he said, well, that's funny because mom said the same thing. So it's, for a sexual assault victim, I'm going to imagine that wasn't the best meme that I could send, but it made her laugh. At least she typed LOL, so like to think, laugh out loud. And then she also promptly told me he looks like Joe Dirt, which he kind of did, because he had the mullet in his back. It's not important. And then the next one that I sent her was, if you spell the word stud, it's spelled STUD, right? Keep that in mind. The next one that I sent her was something along the lines of, I put the STD in stud, now all I need is a U. And I remember right then and there, after sending that second one, it struck me like lightning out of the sky. Holy crap. I shouldn't send these to her. And it was one of those darling things where it just hit me right then and there, and I should have known better. And I think it triggered her, and she promptly told me about it. She didn't like cuss me out or anything. But we spent like 30 minutes right after she said that she was cleaning her room, or cleaning her apartment or whatever it was, and she was talking to me, but that wasn't like, somehow I jumped from one story to the next. Like I said, I was missing 88 days of school, and I had to do kindergarten again. And my trauma can't live up to her trauma, but my trauma was basically, I'd starved to death almost for years. Whenever I was 8 years old, I weighed 50 pounds. Not sure whether an 8-year-old is supposed to weigh 50 pounds or not. I was probably 7 or 8. It wasn't that I had an eating disorder or anything of that nature. It's just the fact that I wasn't eating, because whenever I would come out of my room, my mom would tell me to stay in there. I wasn't allowed out of my room except during the daytime. You know, usually I'd go to sleep at like 6, 7 o'clock, because, you know, I'm 9, 8 years old, 7 years old. So I had to go to sleep. And my mom was bad off on drugs. I'm not sure which drugs it was, but she was really bad off on something, whether it's codeine, cocaine, you know, methamphetamines or anything like that. The point is that it's something that I had to deal with, you know, and these traumas are something that it is hard to get past. With the help of meditation, I have learned, I won't say to forgive, and I won't say to forget, because obviously I haven't forgotten anything. As a matter of fact, it brings back memories from time to time that I didn't even know that I had. And on a few occasions, it's actually brought me to a place back in time when my grandma was alive, and I was an unruly little brat. And the point, of course, is that I was throwing a temper tantrum. And part of this temper tantrum I kept, and I had this wooden door for a bedroom door. It was very, I won't say heavy, but whenever you shut it, you could hear it basically like slam. So I would open it, and then I would shut it, and then I would open it, and then I would shut it, and then I would open it, and guess what I would do again? I would shut it. And then you would just hear this bam, 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 bam. Like Bam Bam from the Flintstones. And my grandma couldn't handle that, you know? And like I said, I was an unruly child for whatever reason. It brought me to that place. It brought me back to me being a child and doing that to her, almost as if I was a ghost watching myself do that. A lot of you are probably confused, probably wondering where this story came from, how we got to this point 40 minutes in, and I'm still not talking about mental health, even though I kinda am. How we went off the rails with this girl's story. The point is that I'm struggling to find my words because I never meant to hurt them like that. My grandparents, I never once meant to hurt them like that because they were nothing but good to me. And I wish I could say that I was sorry. A small part of me still holds resentment toward myself because I never looked at them and said that I was sorry. And I've tried everything in my power. Like I said, you are in more control than you think. Because whenever I was 7.5 years old, I used to wish my grandpa dead, and I probably did it 40 or 50 times. Until one night before I went to sleep. I basically put the final nail in his coffin whenever I said, I wish my grandpa would just die. Whenever I said that I wished that he would die, the following morning I got my wish come true. Now, it was brought to my attention years later it was brought to my attention that in the Bible it says never go to sleep with anger. It's something like that. Never go to sleep angry, Never let the sun set with your emotions. Like, you want to be able to clear things up with people and, stuff of that nature. I don't know how else to say it, but I feel responsible for manifesting my grandfather's death. You want to be careful with how you use this, with how you use the spiritual energy that you might get from doing these techniques. And like I said, I'm going to now give you guys a YouTube channel. I do apologize that it's taken me this long because earlier I said that my mind is basically trying to grab ideas and trying to grab all these thoughts from which I've already put into the book, and from which that I'm going to put into the book a little bit more. I promise you that this is not a marketing ploy for me to sell more copies of my book, because my audience is 7 or 8 people. So 7 or 8 people buy this book, or download it on their phones rather. It's not going to hurt my feelings whether it's 7 people, 8 people, 9, 0, If this book goes undiscovered for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 18, 25 years, if I die before anybody reads this damn book, it's not gonna matter. What does matter is the emotional traumas, the mental health issues that you may or may not suffer from, and for that matter, some of the issues that you might face on a day-to-day basis. Some people don't want to go to work in the morning, which is understandable. You just gotta take a deep breath, close your eyes, and ever so often do that throughout your day. Take a deep breath, close your eyes. You'll notice that the stress just melts away. That the stress that you felt at the beginning of the day, 2, 3, 4 hours later, promptly just seems to just snap and go away. There's nothing more refreshing than seeing your stress just be lifted off of you. I do apologize for the big pauses that I keep taking. I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to find my words. Usually I have a notepad in front of me and I'm screaming, basically saying something along the lines of, "This match was off the walls. It was balls to the walls." But I'm not talking about wrestling, even though I have talked about it in this mental health chat. Nonetheless, it's about finding the center. It's about finding not the sinner. See? So we're not talking about the Bible anymore. Like, you're a sinner, you need to repent. That's not what it's about. It's about opening your mind. This is going to probably blow a lot of your all's minds, but believe it or not, on an episode of To Catch a Predator with Chris Hansen, they found a rabbi coming to their sting house, and the rabbi actually ratted out. He kind of told not only on himself, but also on other networks of rabbis who had been soliciting child lewd. I don't know if I'll get flagged for saying the word. I mean, I already made like a death threat, kind of light death threat. I mean, don't take it seriously, because odds are I'm never going to be able to find Kevin Owens in an open field somewhere where I actually have an opportunity to bludgeon him with a weapon. But the point is that they found a few rabbi networks of people who had already had and distributed the harmful matter of children to other rabbis, and they called about 16 or 17, maybe more, rabbis, according to the article that I'd read. And the weird part about that is that if you know anything about, like, people of God or holiness or anything of that nature, it's that it's supposed to be tied into your spiritual health, your spiritual wellness. People who shouldn't be doing that type of stuff. The ironic part, and don't worry, this is kind of funny, kind of not, it might make you cringe a little bit, is that there are people known as Satanists who don't even do that. Now, for those of you wondering, a Satanist is different than a devil worshiper, on many different levels, but I'll let you do your own research. A Satanist keeps an open mind and also follows their own 10 commandments. A devil worshiper, on the other hand, I guess, drinks the blood of the lamb, commits as many sins as possible, and for that matter doesn't give a damn about anybody but themselves because they're narcissistic. But other than that, back to this girl's story, and I really don't know what else to say in order to wrap that up. So, she was hurt. I was hurt. So we got to know each other a little bit better. And I also figured out that she herself, she doesn't fancy Kevin Owens. Although I feel like I didn't like Kevin Owens a lot more than what she says that she didn't like Kevin Owens. And I haven't talked to her since August of 2019. And I always made the joke that if I had a podcast, I would want to make her a guest or a co-host. Believe it or not, from the platform that I do this on, I can actually assign co-hosts. So, had that been the case, and if you have a microphone of your own and are as passionate about professional wrestling as I am, perhaps we could have a chat. That way that it frees up my schedule a little bit. I get a team of people together, maybe, and then maybe Thursdays I can do this show, even though it's Friday today and this is going up on Saturday. Not my point. If Thursdays I can do this show, and then Saturday they can do their show, and then Monday, dumbass over here can do his show, and then we can promptly split the bill and pay for more time. For those of you who don't know, I pay $18 a month for 6 hours of content so that I can upload it. I can upload up to 6 hours of content because there's 4 weeks in a month. So it's extremely difficult to plan out episodes unless, of course, you know what your episode itinerary is. And me, I kind of make it up as I go. Like, this was not a last-minute decision. I knew that I wanted to make this episode 3 days prior to making this episode. I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, but at the same time, I've already gotten everything out of the way, and I'm about to hit the hour mark anyway. And I don't know what else to say other than I implore you. I'm here to help you. My socials, my social medias, on Twitter at P1_StylesX. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my old one. Holy crap. That one got banned thanks to Kevin Owens. See, he's kind of the center of all the bad energy in my life. And if I had the means to, honestly, I should have wished him dead instead of my grandfather. But if I had the air and opportunity, I'll say it again, he wouldn't be living. Nonetheless, I'm not going to make it my mission to kill anybody, to hurt anybody, or for that matter, I will not be held accountable for anyone who takes it upon themselves to do something to someone related, affiliated, or for that matter, the person in interest himself, because I didn't put you up to it. Okay? So if something were to happen, and then you were to point to this and then say, hey, he put me up to it, we had an agreement. No, we didn't. We didn't. If you're trying to frame me for anything that you are doing wrong. Nonetheless, on my YouTube channel, I talk about spiritual, mental wellness, as well as we also do creepypastas. I don't know if I'm going to do a creepypasta or two on this, or on these episodes rather. I'm not really quite sure how I would set that up or what I would do in order to organize a creepypasta episode. It doesn't really tie into the whole wrestling thing, you know. At the same time, now they're just mental health. But, I mean, it kind of does, because if you think about it, Randy Orton was crazy. He heard voices in his head. They counsel him. They understand. They talk to him. AJ Lee was considered crazy, and by one means or another, not my words. So I'm going to tell you guys what a certain YouTuber said about AJ Lee. He said that she was, quote, unfuckable. Not really sure what that means, but okay. I mean, if I seen her out, if I had the okay, so if she came on to me, that's what I should say. Oh, here's the hoping though. AJ Lee, right? April Jean Lee. Woo. But nonetheless, I could talk about crazy people in professional wrestling. I could probably make a whole YouTube video about it, because there's been a lot of them. There was Dean Ambrose, who we've talked about before in the Chicago street fight. Ambrose, who he's called the Lunatic Fringe for whatever reason. And I went on Google and typed in lunatic fringe and found I must have spelled fringe wrong, because I must have spelled fridge, because I found a picture of a refrigerator with hair, much like Dean Ambrose's, and it had DA written like right on the right almost to where the handle was of the refrigerator. And DA, I guess, stands for Dean Ambrose, but it was like his old t-shirt design. I guess just to close this out, let's talk more about, wrestling. Luke Harper, and for that matter, Bray Wyatt, especially Bray Wyatt, was considered crazy for a long time, because Bray Wyatt was a cult leader who, for whatever fucking reason, lived in the swamp. I guess he's Shrek now. Somebody once told me he was a cult leader, though, and even more scary or more creepy or more acidonly crazier than that, if you want to even get crazier than that, was R-Truth. Or the Fiend gimmick must have been crazier than that. R-Truth is a fucking gem, okay? He comes out, and I mean, he's like a diamond, okay? He comes out, and then he's got this persona where he's crazy, and then he's supposed to be entering into a ladder match. And the funniest part of the entire promo is where he comes out and then he basically says that they better not have no spiders in that briefcase. He said, because if they do, he said I got arachnophobia, and he said if there's spiders in those briefcases, he said, the grease gonna hit the pan. So I don't know what it means when, quote, the grease hits the pan, but I would love to see it. I would love to see the grease hit the pan. That's true crazy, in its own right. I'm not sure how we got to mental health to being crazy. I guess you have to be crazy in order to have some sort of mental health problem or what have you. Nonetheless, this is clearly not a marketing ploy to sell any, or inflate rather, any copies of a book that may or may not be coming out within the next month or so, or 3 months, 2-3 months, because I don't want to give myself a timeline. 90 days sounds kind of it sounds like something that I can work with. Also, I have something very important to tell my audience right now, and it's